stock. I'm Zeyu Wang from the University of Pannonia, and today I would like to share our research work about the tensor core computing, and it's an example on the independent component analysis, the ICA algorithm. And I will introduce our research work from these 4 parts, definitely the tensor core and independent component analysis algorithm, and how we accelerate the ICA using the tensor core, the implementation strategy, and our future works. So what is the tensor core? It's actually a kind of hardware unit in the streaming multiprocessor in the GPU chip, which is quite similar to the CUDA core, which are more familiar with us. But the difference is a single tensor core will provide the processing of a set of 4 by 4 matrix multiplication within a single clock cycle. So this will make it very, very efficient than the CUDA core. That is animation a little bit blurred, but let's have a look at some GPUs equipped with the tensor core. We can see that the processing power provided by the tensor core is almost more than 10 times higher than the processing power than the provided by the CUDA core, which is absolutely amazing. And a big question is how to program this kind of very powerful hardware, I mean, the tensor core. I assume that now we are familiar with the CUDA core in the GPU. So basically, we have a software hierarchy and a hardware hierarchy. So in the software hierarchy, one thread will be handled by a single CUDA core, and the thread block will be handled by the streaming multiprocessor, and the thread grid will be handled by the whole devices, right? And yeah, everything is working in a dynamic way. But when the tensor core was introduced, we need another layer that is a warp. So a warp contains 32 threads, and each warp will be handled by multiple tensor cores. And this warp will provide the process of a set of 16 by 16 by 16 matrix multiplication operation. And here I will give an example about how to perform a matrix multiplication and adding operation using the tensor core. So the first thing we need to do is chop all the matrix that we want to compute into submatrix or tiles, which is a 16 by 16 tiles. And then we need to map all the warps in the thread grid to its corresponding submatrix or tiles in the matrix. Then, well, actually, each warp will be in charge of a tile in the result matrix, which is a matrix D, and they will accumulate crossing the K dimension to produce the correct result. Using the C++ template provided by NVIDIA, we can easily adding warp mapping, computing accumulation very easily using the template they provided in our kernel functions. And then I will jump a little bit more into the ICA. So first question, what is ICA and why we need it? Well, actually, the signals we collected, most of them are mixed signals. Let's take an example like the EEG signal, the electroencephalogram signal we collected from our scalp. And for each sensor we put on our scalp, it is actually detecting a mixing signal from all the true brain signal source. So we can actually convert this mixing process into a mathematical problem. So this is a matrix X, that's what we measured here, and that is a true brain signal source, and it's mixed by a mixing matrix. And what we want is actually the true signal source, right? The tricky thing here is we have 2 unknown parts in this equation, so there is no way to give a solution to get the true brain source, but we can estimate. And the hypothesis is, let's say, if all the channels in this matrix they are from the real signal source, they should be independent from each other. So that means we need to convert this kind of measured mixed EEG signal to remove the dependency among different channels to produce the true brain signal. And in order to remove the dependency among different channels, the first thing we need to do, can I switch back to the PDF version because the layout is just mess. Yeah, okay, I can switch. Yeah, this one looks much better. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, that is for different matrix. That is matrix we measured that is known for us, and this two part is unknown. So we are looking for this mixing matrix to get back, project back to get the real signal source. So before we remove the the dependency among different channels, we need to remove the correlation. Now let's assume that for the matrix we collected, there is no correlation among different channels. So let's assume this. And what will happen? The covariance matrix will be this kind of diagonal style, right? That means they only have correlation with themselves and do not correlate with the rest of the channels. But the fact is not. So we need to modify something on the input matrix, and then the singular value decomposition come. So what we gonna modify on the matrix X? So we decompose the matrix X using the singular value decomposition and using that's actually the principal access matrix of matrix X, and then we multiply the transpose of the principal access matrix with the X itself, and then take the square root. So the covariance matrix of X deco will be this kind of style. So in this way, from a geometric angle, what we did on the matrix is actually rotation and stretching. Just like this way, the raw data, centralized data, that means removing the mean value, and then whitened data. This process is also called the data whitening. So the whitened data will be computed by the unmixing matrix and go through a nonlinear function, and we will evaluate the dependency of the output here. If it doesn't require our requirement, we will perform back propagation to renew the value in the unmixing matrix and then perform a forward propagation. It sounds very like the machine learning or neural network algorithm. And after several iterations, we can remove the dependency among different channels. And here is a parallel implementation, and we have a pseudocode here. So basically, the whitened data will be chopped into different blocks, and they will be fed to these 4 steps. And each step here is achieved by a kernel function. You can say we actually have 2 loops here. One is for the to loop the different data block, and another loop is for the convergency. So even in the inner loop, we have quite a lot of matrix multiplication stuff. So this whole thing could be very, very, very time consuming because of the matrix operation. And before we optimize any implementation using the Tensor core, we need to do some variable analysis or memory allocation analysis. So here we have all the variables required by these 4 steps, and we can say whether it will be modified by a certain step after it was processed. And because the Tensor core was designed to perform the matrix and adding operation. So another important thing is locating the matrix multiplication in the implementation. So here is the details of that 4 steps achieved by kernel functions. I just highlighted the matrix multiplication part, and they are the potential points which can be accelerated or optimized by the Tensor core. Let's say everything goes very well, and probably we produce some new implementation which can provide us maybe higher performance. Another important thing is the numerical correctness. We are not only pursuing faster, but it should be correct as well. Here we plot the independent component from different implementation. So it's a independent components pair. That is an ideal situation. Like it's just diagonal, which means these two pairs, they are identical. So in this way, we can produce the diagonal. But this is our result produced by the tensor core-based implementation. Definitely, we have some numerical problems, and yeah, it's still ongoing work. And then we decompose the 32-channel EEG data up to 200Ks, and the CUDA core and tensor core execution time produced by a A100 GPU on Kumado supercomputer. Also, we used the MATLAB execution time as a reference. We can say from MATLAB implementation to the CUDA core version, we can roughly get 3x speed up, but from the CUDA core version, from the tensor core version, we can get an extra 4x speed up. So basically, we are standing on the shoulder of giants. And for our future work, definitely the numerical correctness is our first priority to solve. And then we have some new strategies like using the tensor core plus the shared memory, because in the traditional CUDA core matrix multiplication, the shared memory plays a very important role. We want to introduce this strategy as well. And then we want to do some further performance testing, like we can integrate the ICA algorithm into the EEG signal processing pipeline and see how many speed up we can achieve and benefit from the tensor core-based ICA. Tensor core is actually a mixed precision computing device. So currently, the impact of mixed precision computing it deserves further study. So I'm not 100% sure whether it will affect the result or not. And the final thing is, if you are now suffering from some algorithm or implementation, which involve a lot of matrix multiplication, and it's very time consuming. So the tensor core definitely deserves your consideration. Yeah, that is what I want to share. Thank you for your kind attention.
Time for questions. Lots.
Thank you for this talk, very interesting. So what would be the shortest signal to analyze with your method?
The shortest?
How many data points would you require?
Okay.
Considering someone is behaving and making different choices in sub-seconds.
Yeah. Well, I can tell some stories about this because it's very interesting. You are asking the shortest signal instead of the longest. Let's go back to here first. You say from the software hierarchy, actually, this kind of 16 by 16 matrix is a processing or computing unit for a warp, but it doesn't mean we are controlling a single tensor core here, because a single tensor core can only provide a 4x4 matrix multiplication. So if let's take this as an example. Let's say how many channels and how many time points we can perform here. As long as it's bigger than 16 by 16 matrix multiplication, that's fine. And probably in the practice situation, we may have some problem is the number of channels or the number of time points, they are not multiple of 16, right? It could be very common. So in this case, we need to pad in some zeros to fit this style. Basically, the tensor core is to some extent, it's not as flexible as the CUDA core, but it provides a much higher performance. Yeah.
Thanks.
Tony?
We have assumed the independence of the signals.
Yeah.
But in the brain, I assume that there must be some correlations.
Yep.
So how to handle this?
Okay. Well, let's go back to this equation first. Yeah, this one. So in this equation, we have two unknown parts. So no way to give a solution, right? What we can do is estimation. When it comes to estimation, we definitely need some hypothesis, right? Well, actually, the ICA was not first proposed for the EEG signal processing. It's proposed for some audio processing, like that kind of cocktail party problem. We have a lot of people sitting here and we were talking with each other. I set several microphones here and other sensors. So each sensor was actually recording everyone's voice, right? Because everyone was talking, they are statistically independent from each other. So that is the reason why ICA was proposed. And here we are just using the same hypothesis. So different signal source on our cortex, they are independent with each other. But actually in some cognitive tasks, it is actually independent because different regions are responsive to different tasks. Yeah. Thank you.
Questions? Further questions? Can you go back to the slide with where you presented the numerical problem? So
this one?
Yeah, this one. So from the top to bottom, I see that this is increasing somehow. So what is the difference between the upper rows and the bottom rows?
Okay, you say it's there is 32 blocks here. So
yeah.
Each block here, this let's say y-axis is an independent component produced by, let's say, implementation 1, and this x-axis is a corresponding independent component produced by implementation 2.
Okay.
If these two implementation they are identical, then they should produce the diagonal. If they are not, look at ours. That is but
the upper channels, what you have, it's just better.
Yeah, it's just different channels or different independent.
Yeah. But what is the difference between the upper channels and the lower channels? That's because here the correlation up here, it's very much the same like this.
Yeah.
So it's you can say that this is kind of okay.
It's getting worse and worse.
And what is happening here? That's my question.
Well,
this maybe leads you to
that is also
source of the problem.
It's also our future. Well, that is our first priority to solve. But my guess is probably caused by the mixing precision stuff, because we are actually the input data for the tensor core is half precision, but what it produced is single precision, 32 bits, and this may have some impact on the results. But well, the answer is still unknown for me, but I will figure it out sooner or later.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good luck.
So what we see there is the different size of the input data set. I suppose, is that right, Zeyu? The different blocks are showing increasing data size, right? More and more samples.
No, it's just our IC validation. Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Yeah, but you had different input data size in the.
Oh, you mean for this direction? Yeah.
So it can be some kind of error accumulation, but we're still working on it.
Well, that means the more we do, making the possibility of making mistakes will be improved as well. Yeah.
Okay. Any further remarks or questions? So if not, let's thank Zeyu again. And we would have a speaker who is not yet arrived. So that would be Adam Pinter, if I'm correct. So my suggestion is let's try to switch the. It's coming. Okay, then it's very good. If it's coming, then I don't have to adjust the things. So the next speaker is Adam. And Adam is from here. He's the host of us. And